Greetings and welcome to the What's Right show. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. 200 days of Donald Trump. This is a major milestone. And what a whirlwind of 200 days it has been. Go through some of the accomplishments here in a moment. Sam at whatsrightshow.com is my email. I do check that here as I am on air, so feel free to reach out with questions, and I will respond to you. I typically get to the emails during the break, so we'll address questions basically in the next segment. And of course, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at What's Right Sam. So, the last 200 days have been something, right? I mean, I can't think of a time where more has happened. More wins have been accumulated for the conservative cause than what we have seen here in the relatively short period that Trump has been in office. So here's just some of the things. Deregulation, something we don't talk about very often. But Trump is killing federal regs at a 10-to-1 rate. It tops his first term's 4-to-1 cut. Energy and AI, again, big wins here. Trump has terminated the Biden-era treatment for wind energy, alternative fuels, green energy. It's all gone. He's unveiled America's AI action plan, demanding that we be at the cutting forefront of artificial intelligence worldwide. And on top of that, Trump just announced more acreage in Alaska to be open to mining and drilling, for now a total of 13 million acres. The economy, promises made, promises kept. Breitbart today talking about how we're set for this year. We're set for some of the lowest gas prices over 20 years. President Trump's America First economic policy created a windfall in the stock market, reached some record highs at the S&P 500 and NASDAQ. The big, beautiful bill, largest tax cut in history for working and middle-class Americans, including no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security. This is great stuff. But it didn't stop there. What about immigration? This is one that is obviously a topic very closely watched by many and causing a bit of heartburn for our friends on the other side of the aisle. We have been able to, under Donald Trump, slow migration across the southern border to a trickle. It's almost nobody coming across the border. Why? Well, I don't know. Number one, there's the military present in broad swaths of the border. The Border Patrol has been deployed everywhere with strict orders to repel invaders, but most importantly, a disincentive has been created to even come here in the first place. Gone are the benefits, the freebies, the endless cash through NGOs. Of course, our tax dollars getting used for this to help, assist, and otherwise prop up illegals entering into the U.S. It's good stuff. Now there's a border wall, pieces of it getting built. El Paso kicked off its 7-mile border barrier project. So that's starting to happen. And what else? How many people have... deportations are continuing, right? The Biden administration lost track of 325,000 migrant children. The Trump administration has located 13,000 of them. It's devastating, right? Absolutely a tragic deal, but Trump's promise to do everything possible to save these young victims of child trafficking is slowly coming together. It can be never forgotten that the left did this, that Biden and his auto pen unleashed this great migration of humanity across the border, and together with it, flooded our country full of some of the most dangerous people in the world. Stopping this has been critical. And by the way, the last couple months, we've had 0 illegal immigrants released into the country's interior. This is just not happening. People are being repelled fully at the border. And we think it's really important to remember that even before the big, beautiful bill passed, before ICE was given additional funding, Department of Homeland Security, et cetera, before they got the money, Trump was able to do this simply by exercising his executive authority. And this is something last summer Biden was busy telling us he just couldn't do it. His hands were tied. The border being open was the Republicans' fault because, of course, Republicans, being the immense meanies that we are, were not agreeing to his ridiculous bill getting shoved through Congress, which would have also, by the way, given very little to the border and was primarily a funding instrument for Ukraine. Trans DEI made some progress there in the last 200 days, no? The U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee has banned men from competing in women's sports. The Supreme Court ruled that the Trump administration can enforce the transgender military ban. We've closed the Stanford clinics for child's sex changes. Ditto for the one in Los Angeles, University of Chicago, University of Pennsylvania, Kaiser Permanente, and even in Yale. Trump secured a major agreement with Brown University. Brown's not going to pay, I think it was $50 million over 10 years they're adopting the male and female designations. All of that. Remember that it was just, a year ago? People normally talking about the fact that there were 30, 40, 50, 100 different genders. It's gone. It's ended. Elections have consequences. We are beyond fortunate that things did not go poorly for us back in November. Now, the Democrats, for their part, are actually being quite quiet about Trump's 200-day mark. You'll notice not a lot about it in the mainstream media, because when Trump was in office in 2017, in his first term, Trump 1.0, as I call it, Pelosi issued a statement on his 200th day. And it was a big to-do. Trump's failed 200 days. 6 months, 28 weeks, 4,800 hours, 288,000 minutes, and 0 accomplishments. Ms. Pelosi blasted Trump. She wrote in her press release that the president had offered nothing but broken promises and failed leadership. Instead of improving the lives of hardworking Americans, Trump tried to force on the American people an immoral, ineffective, and expensive border wall, discriminatory new barriers at the ballot box, degrading and disgusting policies banning transgender Americans, blah, blah, blah. So it went. Nothing like that, not even a peep out of the Democrats today. Why? Every single issue that they pushed has become deeply unpopular. Today, it's the Democratic Party that's in crisis. Trump is ascendant. Trumpism, making America great again, America first. Politics are ascendant. People are rallying to the cause, and the proof is in the pudding. So, look, I'm just telling you, it's a great time to be alive. Reactions when we come back. Quick break here. News Talk 840 KXNT. This program, the What's Right Show, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. By the way, Steve Bannon today announcing that he is curious about the prospect of running for president. And he came out of the gate swinging against J.D. Vance. So I don't think that's going to go very far, to be honest. I don't think Bannon has the it factor to secure the Republican nomination. But just passing it along. It's news. At any rate, Trump's first 200 days, celebrated today, been a wild ride. No question about it. So much is happening. And incidentally, we've gotten to the foreign policy news today that Russia, Putin, actually saying that there was an offer from the American side that the Russians would consider to be acceptable. Steve Witkoff, Trump's envoy in these matters, visited with Putin yesterday. The two of them had an hours-long meeting. And I saw some video of it afterwards, and Putin appeared to be smiling. And I've seen so many reactions from these idiot libs going, what are they doing? Why are they talking to Putin? Isn't it worth a try for peace? I'm like, Trump's not going to get it at all costs, but at least open a dialogue. I saw reactions, right? Don't even talk to Putin. Well, why wouldn't you? So on the subject of foreign policy, how many wars in the last 200 days have we avoided or stopped simply because Trump is willing and able to get on the phone, make calls to world leaders, allow tensions to cool, and convince the leaders on the other end of the line to put down their arms? Most recently, Cambodia and Thailand started a hot war, basically firing missiles at each other across the border. Earlier in the year, India and Pakistan engaged in kinetic conflict, also stopped by Trump. He's talking to people. It's a good thing. It's not bad. So this is one of the victories. Now, Scott Bessent was talking today on MSNBC with Morning Joe, talking about the affordability crisis. And I mentioned this the other day because I think that the Trump team is really focused on this. There are people, lots and lots of ordinary Americans are taking to social media to describe how incredibly difficult it is to make ends meet. I saw this one tape, Robbie, of a guy who claims to have a good job. Him and his wife both employed, making good money, and they are trying to buy a $450,000 house. And in order to, even after putting 20% down, or no, I think 10% down, $450,000, they have an almost $5,000 mortgage payment. When Trump is pushing to drop interest rates, this is one of the reasons why. So here's Scott Bessent addressing this, one of the most competent members of the new Trump administration.
There is an affordability crisis. We inherited a big affordability crisis, and we've got, as I've said, President Trump's doing peace deals, tax deals, trade deals. We've got the tax deal in place, as you kicked off the top of this segment with. The trade deals are largely done, and now we can really hone in on the affordability. At Treasury, we're going to be looking at what we can do for housing, for student loans, for overall, because there is an affordability crisis. The first step in easing the affordability crisis was to bring down inflation. Inflation in May was down for the first time in 4 years. So to address it, you've got to stop the increase first. And there are two ways to address it: the affordability crisis. You can stop the inflation, and you can have a very strong real wage gains, which is what I think this manufacturing renaissance is going to do.
Again, you hear Democrats fighting against the tariffs and at the same time screaming about affordability. And it's like, people, how do the way to fix this is not just to bring down inflation, but to bring up American wages. And if you bring up domestic wages, you have to do two things. One, protect the domestic market manufacturing in order to repatriate jobs, something that's happening. Yesterday's announcement with Apple related to the production of iPhone and Apple Watch screens here in the U.S., big facility being built, approximately a $600 to $800 billion investment, a big deal. Every one of those deals that generates American jobs brings that wage gain to the U.S. And the other part of this is immigration. But the party that is the most obstinate anti-Trump foil, the Democrats, as one would expect, decries any efforts to enforce immigration, illegal immigration in particular in the country, which has been a great force that drives down real wages for working class Americans. They're also up in arms about the tariffs. Oh my gosh, the tariffs. Now, today, a number of the tariff rates, incidentally, came into effect, and market signals are mixed on this. I think some of the shock and the concern over these tariffs have already been baked into the equation. I just think that just as it has been in the first part of the year, I really truly think it's going to be much more of a dud, prices going up, et cetera, than you'd expect. A lot of these manufacturers are going to have to figure out ways, exporters, right? Export manufacturers in Europe, for example, how to make up that 15%. It's 10% in Great Britain. It's a lot more in some countries like Canada that have not yet consummated a deal with the United States. There's an incentive to trade with us. But offsetting this too, you have to remember, is now a incentive for manufacturers to make it in America. And for the stuff that gets imported, there is a revenue to the Treasury. And if that revenue to the Treasury can be used to, pay down the deficit, then that creates real economic growth. Because, of course, there's no greater drag on an economy than a rising deficit, rising national debt. To this end, Elon Musk was absolutely right. Now, presidential advisor Stephen Miller, deputy chief of staff, was on Fox News' Sean Hannity last night and calling this the coming golden age of the American economy. I'm inclined to agree.
The economy was on its deathbed when President Trump came into the Oval Office. Joe Biden and the Democrats and whoever was running the White House, be it the Autopen or anyone else, had suffocated the life out of the American economy. The worst inflation we've ever seen, soaring energy prices, no investment, no innovation, losing out to the world, and the drastic overregulation of every segment and facet of the American economy. President Trump came in. Now we have the largest tax cut and reform in American history. We have the most pro-energy agenda in American history. Lee Zeldin, the head of the EPA, just did the largest energy deregulation action in American history. You mentioned the investments. I had the honor and privilege of watching the president negotiate with the EU and Korea and Japan the largest investments in American history we've ever seen. This is the golden age of the American economy, Sean.
Biden traveled the globe giving away everything. American sovereignty, our money, got us in debt, drove up the cost of everything, and dithered as the world burned. Not to mention our country overrun by some of the most vile and most dangerous people on the planet. What a radically different place we find ourselves in now. Just 200 days in. Almost imagine what it's going to be like after 2 years in, and hardly contain myself. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Short break here. Obscene profit time out, as Rush would call it. See you on the other side. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome back to the program. Sam@whatsrightshow.com is my email. @whatsrightsam on X, formerly known as Twitter. One of the things I think Trump might be toying with right now is the federalizing of the District of Columbia. What does that mean? Well, essentially, the president, the executive branch of government, would retake responsibility for the Capitol. Would say, thank you, mayor, thank you, city council, you're all done. The federal government is taking it back over, deploying the FBI and other federal agents to keep the Capitol safe. J.D. Vance tweeted about an hour ago, our nation's capital has some of the worst homicide rates in the world. If this fact doesn't anger you, but President Trump's efforts to fix it do, you might have a brain worm. Here it is, District of Columbia, 41 homicides per 100,000. Lima, 7. That's Lima, Peru, 7 per 100,000. Havana, 4 per 100,000. Mexico City. You know how many people tell me Mexico City? I've gone a number of times, been there, visited, love it. Even though right now the Mexico City Mexicans aren't very happy that the gringos are there, driving up prices, taking up housing. Out with the gringo, they cry. But Mike, we can't say that about the Mexicans here. Okay, Mexico City, people say it's so unsafe. Mind you, D.C., 41 homicides per 100,000. What do you think Mexico City is? 8. 8. I mean, I could see Trump doing it. I think Jeanine Pirro is the U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia is a big deal. I also think that it would demonstrate to the flabby middle, the so-called undecided voters, the independents, that law enforcement matters. They already know that, right? It's common sense. You enforce the law, you let the police out in force, you go and arrest bad guys, crime goes down. That new president that they have in El Salvador, Bukele, did you see how popular he is? I mean, the left is freaking out because he just basically declared himself president for life. Well, he didn't do that. He has to run for re-election, but they lifted term limits. And everybody in the country is all for it. Why? They went around interviewing people on the street in the Capitol. And there were moms or young women that said, I can walk anywhere at any time of night and feel safe now. You do that for people, you change their lives. It's unacceptable that Washington, that New York, that San Francisco, Chicago, that great American cities have been taken over by rampant criminal activity, all because the left wants these great cities that they view as edifices to capitalism, to a system that they abhor, to burn to the ground. They want it all gone. It's really that perverse. I'm telling you, this is how these people think. So, I think it would demonstrate, you just imagine the bold statement it would be to have D.C. be the, largest, safest city in America. And D.C. isn't even that big. It would be easily doable. And it should piss off the average left of center person that in these great cities, people with money get to be safe because they pay for their own exclusion from having to be out in the street or take public transportation. They pay for the benefit of safety. But for the working class person, for the bottom quintile or quartile of society, there's no way to opt out. That's unfair. It's unjust. You would think that the left would care about the poor. They don't. They care about the socialist revolution. There's nothing to do with actually helping people. Now I'll get to, by the way, imagine this, right? As a 1-2 punch, imagine that on one hand, they go in, Trump federalizes Washington, D.C. He demonstrates what law and order is all about. He shows the average person who is maybe anti-Trump, but has some amount of ability to reason in Oakland, in L.A., in I don't know, name the big left, Atlanta, Chicago, and go, look what they did in D.C. And then at the same time, Trump goes through with his plan via the Commerce Department. And he goes in and he does a midterm census. There is a provision in the Constitution that a census has to be done within every 10-year period. There's no prohibition on performing more. So the big news out today, of course, is that Trump is like, let's do another census. And the left is losing their minds because this is a disaster for them. Now, what is Trump going to do in this sort of intervals, early census? He's not going to count illegals. That's what he said. Don't count them. Oh, just wait them. They'll take that to court. They'll fight it. But I think they'll win. I mean, Trump will win, in other words. And it's time. The 2020 COVID census was botched. It was cooked. There's no question in my mind. If you live in Las Vegas, is there any doubt that Californians have fled their state? I mean, just go out on your street, look left, look right, and see if you see some California plates that moved in the last 3 months. Now, we welcome our new California neighbors. Let's be nice to them. They're not all terrible. But I mean, if you're just new to the show, I am from California. I am Nevada's favorite recovering Californian. So bear with me here. But they're coming here. They're coming to Texas. New York is New Yorkers are going down to Florida. By the way, the apportionment estimate, they did a forecast on this, what it would be like. The top gains for congressional seats would be Florida and Texas. That's a +8. And that is, by the way, that is before the redistricting, right? That has nothing to do with that just means they would get more districts. They would get more congressmen. California would lose 3. Oregon would lose 3. Utah, Idaho, Arizona would each gain a seat. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois would each lose 1. New York would lose a congressional seat. Actually, 2. Pennsylvania would lose 1. I mean, suddenly the entire electoral map for the 2028 election would look a little different. States like Texas and Florida would have more power, more electoral votes, and California and other blue states would have less. Now, why am I talking about this in the same terms as a discussion about federalizing law enforcement in the District of Columbia? Because, very simple, why are people leaving the blue states? Why are the blue states losing Americans? I'm not talking about illegals, because they made up the numbers on illegals, which is why the blue states all fought to get them. It's counterintuitive, right? We thought, oh, we're going to show them. Abbott started busing illegals from Texas saying, okay, we can't deal with this. You take them up in blue states. And it turned out that the blue states were like, yeah, we'll take them because the Democratic Party smelled an opportunity. But when you don't count the illegals and you also have, ICE going around every Home Depot, loading them up, sending around the Penske paddy wagons, it's problem's going to solve itself. So you're not going to count those people. And now, finally, back to the reasons why people leave these blue states. What is it? Taxes. Okay. What else? Regulation, sure. Education, all that indoctrination that we don't like. Yeah. I'm telling you, the number one reason is public safety. I can't tell you how many people have told me. I know have several good friends, one of which recently, last couple of years, left from LA County and moved up to Idaho. He goes, look, he told me, he goes, I grew up in a place where, when I was young, we could leave our front door unlocked. I can't even leave my car parked out on the street. And he lived in a nice neighborhood in LA County. Really nice place. Okay? People's cars were getting stolen from their driveways. If Trump can make crime a large federal issue, and better yet, if we can make this an issue in the 2026 midterms, oh my gosh, smoking heck, this is going to be amazing. Because people are craving their safety, and the insanity pendulum went way out there with the Democrats with their whole, defund the police and no cash bail and let all the loonies out and let them reoffend. Zohran Mamdani, the socialist Democrat running for mayor of New York City. We've done the statistic before, haven't we, Robbie? It's basically 3,600 people in New York City that do like 70 or 80% of the crime. Let me say that again. Out of the millions of people in New York City, it really is a statistic that is that shocking. Meaning, all you have to do is take a few thousand people and lock them up, and crime would drop by more than half. But for the Democrats, it's not the solution, because the fear that the population feels, the worsening of conditions, the deterioration of public safety is the desired result. So I think this is now, the census is such a good idea by Trump, is he's making the Democrats finally feel a consequence of their policies. The Democrats have always looked at their policies, not through the lens of what helps the ordinary person, what helps the voter, Republican, Democrat, whoever. Am I helping my constituents? No. It has always been about how does this help me, Mr. Democrat, Ms. Democrat, it Democrat, they, them Democrat, whatever it is Democrat. How does it help us gain political power? And this new census will, for the first time, bring comeuppance upon the Democrats, because now they are losing representation, they're losing seats, they're losing electoral votes, they're losing political power as a consequence of their absolutely crappy agenda. And it couldn't come any sooner to any better people. Let's hear from a few of them when we return. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Here's one of the statistics about New York. Robbie dug this up, and it isn't exactly the number I was using, but it does make the point about why going soft on repeat offenders and career criminals is a terrible idea. Just 327, that's 327, okay, suspects made up 30% of New York City's shoplifting arrests in 22. So in 1 year, under 350 people made up 30% of all shoplifting arrests. It's like that with assault. It's like this with every major crime, burglary, Look, how do I put this nicely? I mean, you don't just sort of wake up one day going, I'm going to burgle a residence. And here are all my tools that I have. I just was like, this was my one time I'm going to do it. My investment in all of this setup was just so I could do it once. So you get caught, you have to pay a lawyer. Now you're going to go back and do it again. We have to get real here. California crime went down when we had 3 strikes and you're out. Remember this? Once upon a time, California was serious about crime. Voters passed the initiative to put felons away after their 3rd felony conviction. You get 1 felony, you get 2 felonies, 3 felonies, hasta la vista, baby. And along comes Newsom and changes all of it. Well, the rest is history. So I've enjoyed here as we're hitting the 200-day mark of Trump's presidency, some reactions from some very angry Democrats. Let's see, this is a good one. Stacey Abrams, Ms. Election Fraud herself, by the way, a consummate election denier. I don't think she's yet conceded the election down there in Georgia for the Senate. Stacey Abrams still, by the way, prominently displaying her front gap tooth. So she's got that going for her. Here she goes. It's barely coherent.
Among the many other vile things that Donald Trump has been called, including tyrant, liar, scam artist, he is also an aspiring dictator, supported and guided like a puppet by a cabal of tech billionaires, Christian nationalists, and xenophobes who all have his ear and understand government a lot better than he does.
This is what they've got. This is what we've got. I mean, I listed at my open of the show today all the accomplishments, not even all of them, but some of the accomplishments of Trump. And I guess one of the voices of the opposition here is saying, well, Trump isn't just a bigot. He's not just a terrible person. He's not just a racist. He is a dictator, an aspiring dictator, and he's supported and guided like a puppet. So he's both a dictator, he's both a strong man, but he's also a puppet. They can't even get their metaphors straight. So anyway, Karen Bass, mayor of Los Angeles, the firebug, if you will. I'm not saying she started the fire. I'm just saying she seems to be pretty blasé about it. She's the one who left town just as fire conditions were getting dire, went off to Africa on behalf of the Biden administration, go for some president swearing in or whatever the hell that was, and then didn't come back even as the fires began to burn. She was on Joe Biden's short list for running mate, narrowly edged out by the laughing hyena, Ms. Kamala Harris. So here's Karen Bass lamenting Trump's immigration raids, an immensely popular and important enforcement mechanism to finally turn back the tide of illegal immigration in the United States.
And it is hard for me to believe that that raid was consistent with the court order that said you cannot racially profile, you cannot racially discriminate. What I saw on the video, what I saw on the pictures that were sent to me looked like the same guys chasing people through a Home Depot.
What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, bad boys. Okay, so remember I described to you yesterday the scene? The Home Depot somewhere in Los Angeles where the Penske box truck, the rental box truck pulled up, the DHS ICE agents all masked, ready to go, pockets full of zip ties, and joy in their hearts leapt out and began catching illegals. Did you hear now that Penske, the company, has distanced itself from Trump? They put out some silly statement. There's not the values of our company and didn't the owner get a Presidential Medal of Freedom from Trump in his first term? Yeah, like the owner of Penske did. Yeah, I think he got the medal, got the full thing. I don't know where he is now. Maybe he's dead. But I just put my hands up and all. This is all they've got. They're going after brown people. They're going after the racists, the bigots, and transphobes and dictators. They just want to dictate. Meanwhile, the rest of America is like, please dictate, because if you are an ordinary person living in this country, you want your prices lower and your family safe. You're looking at what Trump is doing and go, hey, that was pretty good. All right, folks, speaking of immigration, I need to get to this. Major new details on the Iranian threat, exploiting all of the loopholes that Biden allowed to have happen. Crazy stuff. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. here on News Talk 840 KXNT. Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email, at What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. All right, you know where to find me. So, okay. Daily Mail put out a piece that was quite alarming today, describing a frantic terrorist manhunt across America as apparently the Department of Homeland Security and our intelligence folks have discovered that a bunch of Iranian sleeper agents may be in the country and may be in possession of Venezuelan passports obtained from Nicolas Maduro and his rogue regime down there in Venezuela. They have clearly gotten to the country not through the front door. They have taken advantage, according to the Daily Mail, of the Biden administration's lawless southern border, crossing illegally into the U.S. alongside the 10, 20, 30 million, who knows, illegal immigrants who came here from 2020 to 2024. A former FBI agent, Jonathan Gilliam, a counterterrorism analyst, told the Daily Mail that over the past 4 years, until we got the border lockdown under Trump, it's much more likely, easy for Iran to develop relationships with Venezuela and get people here, get them in place, and get them supplied and ready to go. So I guess this FBI guy thinks a pretty easy plan. You get them, get them down into Venezuela, a friendly country to Iran, have the Venezuelans equip them with ID cards from Venezuela, perhaps passports, and then send them up through Central America and Mexico into the U.S. If you have enough of them, you're simply going to make it happen. Now, Gilliam, this FBI agent quoted by the Daily Mail, said the probability of Iranian attacks on U.S. soil is now high, and this following the June strikes on Iran. Iranians are perturbed by that. We blew up their nukes. So, what are the numbers? And these are the known numbers, right? We know they're much higher, but these are the ones that we have records of. Between January 2021, when Biden came to power, and October 2023, about two-thirds, three-fourths through his term, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CPB, recorded encounters with more than 380,000 Venezuelan nationals. So how easy would it be to sneak 1,000, 800, 1,200 or so Iranians in, mix them in with more than 380,000 other Venezuelans? And don't forget that in that same period, CPB recorded encounters at the southwest border with at least 382 individuals on the FBI's terror watch list. We've been talking about this forever. They actually caught a number of terrorists, about 400, okay, in that time period. And You're telling me that there weren't more that got their way through, particularly as ICE and Border Patrol had stand-down orders from Mayorkas not to protect the border? They apprehended, too, about 1,500 Iranian nationals. And a lot of them were released into the country to await immigration proceedings. Oh, that was a smart idea, idiots. Thor Halvorson, former Venezuelan ambassador for anti-narcotic affairs in the administration of the former president there, Carlos Andres Perez, now president of the Human Rights Foundation, told the Daily Mail he believes that thousands of Venezuelan passport holders have already made their way into the U.S. and are traveling the world as Venezuelan citizens. But what's the catch? They're actually from Iran. They're from Syria, from Lebanon. Here's what else he said. And this is great. Think about this next time you're taking an Uber. Apparently, these people have regular jobs. Of course they do. Some of them may have even been given social security numbers by the Biden administration. Remember when we were doing that? They're in the finance field. Some of them are working in a bank. Some of them could even be working for the TSA. Halvorson said, we just don't, and then he wrote effing, we just don't effing know. You know what else he said? They're working, driving Uber. Your next Uber driver could be a sleeper cell Iranian or Hezbollah terrorist. And all of this made possible by the dopes running Team Biden over the last 4 years who prioritized their political power over your safety. And this isn't just about your house not getting broken into. This isn't just about your car getting stolen. This is about you being in the wrong place at the wrong time when an attack happens. It's absolutely wild. Now, the part that absolutely gets me is that even as we have these pieces of information coming together, linking up information that previously was available, because I was talking about this during Biden's term, very, very emphatically, I know, we have Democrats still fighting for allowing illegals to remain in the country and for our border to reopen. Arizona Senator Annalise Ortiz at a town hall meeting in Maricopa County in July, about a week and a half ago, said no one is illegal on stolen land. That's right, because we Americans stole the land that we're on. We don't get to exclude anyone from it. I guess that means we can't even exclude, if Osama bin Laden came from the dead and wanted to be here, he'd have a right to be here because, we're all occupiers. Boy, the left has just lost the plot.
I am Arizona State Senator Annalise Ortiz. I have the tremendous honor and privilege of serving the people of this district. You are in my district, in my community here in Maryvale. I, as an elected official, feel unsafe in this meeting. I'm shaking right now, but that's okay. No one is illegal on stolen land.
Okay. And what happens, gosh forbid, if there's an attack? Where people are hurt, where lives are lost, where landmarks are damaged. What then? It's well, I think, by the way, it'll be interesting to see what the mainstream media does when that occurs. I think, Robbie, I agree with you. I think if we have an attack, the thing that the mainstream media is going to do, they'll immediately blame Trump for the attack on Iran. They'll say Trump invited this. And there will never be a substantive conversation anywhere in the mainstream media about Biden carrying blame for allowing our enemies to come within our borders simply because of a perverse incentive for Democrats to remain in eternal power via flooding the country full of illegals. Someday, somewhere, there has to be some eternal justice for the terrible things that have been done to our country at the hands of the Democratic Party. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840. Back after this.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. By the way, breaking a few minutes ago, Attorney General Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas, just launched a major investigation into George Soros, into a PAC that is funded by Soros for unlawfully funding runaway Democrats. So these are the lawmakers down there that are trying to stall by denying a quorum to the remaining Republicans and a handful of Democrats to get the redistricting plan done in Texas. Democrats crying about the gerrymandering Republicans and fleeing to some of the most gerrymandered states in the country, including Illinois and Massachusetts. So Paxton is all in on this, and the legal liability here for Soros and for the members that are getting funded to do this is it essentially becomes a bribe. It becomes a bribe. So if I give a dollar amount, if I give $100 to a state, representative, and I say I'm going to give you this money if you do not perform your duties, I'm influencing your actions as a politician. It's a bribe. Just, pretty straightforward. So I told you this was coming. It's happening. It's occurring. Paxton, of course, is locked into a tough primary battle. All sorts of skeezy things going on behind the scenes. You hear Paxton's wife left him in the middle of all of this. I don't know. She says, well, Paxton's a MAGA Republican. He would be a support for Trump. And the incumbent Republican senator in Texas is a man named John Cornyn, who has been they're not that rare. You're going to call him a white rhino? Robbie, is that what? Okay. Well, he's a rhino, all right. I don't know how rare it is. There's a lot of rhinos in the Senate, including Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins. I'd love to get rid of all of them. So I'm rooting for Paxton over here. And I am aware, I understand this. I have a lot of friends in political circles, and I've had even people that I trust tell me that Paxton's a snake. Okay. Maybe he even cheated on his wife. Whatever it is, I got it. He's not running to be Pope. Okay? In the era of Bill Clinton, they told us that none of that matters. Matters how is he as president? Sam, it doesn't matter what you're doing with Hillary and, the blowjobs under the desk. It doesn't matter. Okay. So I'm going to ignore it. I'm just going, who's going to be a reliable vote for Trump in the Senate? That's literally what I care about. So in that sense, Paxton has my support. Now, you hear that Paxton's opponent, John Cornyn, Mr. White Rhino, got an endorsement from an unlikely source. Boy, if this doesn't absolutely doom Cornyn's campaign, I don't know what will. Let's see if you recognize this, okay? And I'll give you a clue. This lady, I'll just tell you, it's Jasmine Crockett.
actually don't hate Senator Cornyn at all. And right now, what we have is a senator who actually is a real Republican who's doing everything that he can to make it seem like he's a MAGA Republican so that he can get through his primary. But Senator Cornyn, this is not him. This is somebody that sat on our Supreme Court in the state of Texas. This is somebody who typically works in a very bipartisan way, unlike Senator Cruz. This is somebody who is literally doing everything that he can to hopefully get some of that MAGA base. And so Senator Cornyn knows that the FBI can't get involved and ain't going to get involved as it relates to some little civil situation that was signed off on by the Speaker of the Texas House. But the MAGA base won't know that.
Wow. So, according to Ms. Crockett, one of my favorite people right now in the House of Representatives, Ms. Crockett's district is going to go kaboom. And with it, her stellar career as a rising politician. But I get if the redistricting goes through, her district is going to cease to exist and she's not going to get reelected. I mean, by all accounts, as I understand it, looking at the data. Well, that's not the point here. The point is, you imagine you're running in Texas, you're asking Republicans to vote for you. And one of the most foul, ghetto, swamp monster, useless, dumb Democrats, Jasmine Crockett, who every time she talks, you feel like she'd be stripping lead paint off of some asbestos-coated building. I'm telling you, to have her come out and sing her praises, John Cornyn is just pretending to be a MAGA Republican to get through the primary. That's not who he is. I can work with him. Ugh. So bad. Paxton's PAC. Say that right? Paxton's PAC, Political Action Committee, should take this clip and turn it into a nonstop, right before the primary, 3 weeks before the primary, saturate every Texas channel, airwave, social media platform with this 20 seconds of goodness. Oh my gosh. It's not that she's a bad Democrat. You see the story today in the Post? Robbie, you saw this? This was the Post did a whole long story about her, Jasmine Crockett, being a terrible boss. She's like the black Amy Klobuchar. Klobuchar, ran for president, Amy Klobuchar. And she had number of staffers come forward and actually talk to mainstream media publications about what a terrible human being Klobuchar was to work for. That she made people get their dry cleaning. She was demeaning, made staffers cry, was just an all-around BITC, what. And Crockett apparently is even worse. She doesn't like to come into work. She just gets, they describe her being holed up in her luxury Washington, D.C. apartment, doesn't come into the office, has staffers run all of her personal errands, acts like a diva. I mean, I don't know. I look at her on TV and I'm not surprised. This reminds me of an awakening I had as a young man, 17 years old, in Washington, D.C., on a trip to the Capitol. And Robbie, I know you've heard the story, but I'm just going to tell you very quickly. I went to the Capitol. I was there as part of a young, rising kind of political star, driven with the Republican Party, whatever. And I'm out there, and I see in the one of the tunnels between Senate Office Building and the Capitol, I see the Lion of the Senate, Ted Kennedy, Mr. Chappaquiddick, a.k.a. Bubbles. He's there, and in the press at this time, in the 90s, I mean, it is Ted Kennedy, gravitas, elder statesman. And he was berating people. He was yelling at his staff. He was yelling at the attendant that was operating the little subway train. He was gross. And then I had an opportunity to meet Jesse Helms, who was being vilified in the media as someone, related, certainly by blood to Satan. And Jesse Helms was the sweetest man. Everywhere he went, he said, "Oh, how are you? Oh my goodness, this and that." And then nicest, most polite person to waiters, to attendants, to staff. The people that the Dems have as heroes, a lot of them are terrible human beings. And the people that they make out to be monsters on our side, for example, Trump, are actually really strong, good people. Kind of reminds me of the story of Howard Stern versus Rush Limbaugh, if you ask me. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT, back after this. Nevada's favorite recovering Californian behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. This hour of the show brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right. Now, speaking of Democrat-run cities, blue cities that have devolved into criminal cesspools, following up on the beatdown received the other week by a few people in the crowd in Cincinnati at the Jazz Festival. There's been some developments. Holly, all we have is her first name. Holly is the female victim who was horrifically beaten up, kicked and stomped on as she lay passed out on the pavement. She has been speaking out. And I want to play this because it's so important. This was yesterday at a press conference with Ohio U.S. Senator Bernie Moreno. And here's Holly in her own words. Those of you watching the Sam Cam can see that she's making some progress on her injuries, but still, this is difficult to watch.
First and foremost, I just want to say that I don't want to relive what happened to me, 8 or 9 days ago. I'm here to talk about the future and how we can change it, how we can prevent this from happening to anybody else. These heinous crimes have to stop. I never want this to happen to anyone else, especially a mother, a daughter, somebody who is loved. So I just know what it's done to my family, not just to me. And I think that moving forward, we do need more accountability. And I definitely think that, we need more police officers, but like he said, the judges who are just letting people out with a slap. The man who attacked me and might have permanently damaged me forever should never have been on the streets, ever. And the fact that he had just gotten out of jail previously for something he should have been in there for years, it's really sad to me because I can't even fathom how many other people who have been attacked by the same type of man over and over and over. In Toledo, in Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, our streets are being taken over and nobody is doing anything. I am so sad. And I need to be the voice to help all of the victims that never got their justice.
When she talks about this, right, a lot of folks looking at her and going, well, okay, she's going to recover, right? Maybe some of her teeth are loose and you can tell she's speaking maybe with a little bit of a lisp, and that could be part of her injury. You do realize that having this kind of head trauma could lead to early Alzheimer's, dementia. Her life could be shortened by decades because of this. Again, it's attempted murder. And for me, it's very simple. In Samuelistan, my country that I were to operate, should I ever be so lucky to become an aspiring dictator like Trump, according to his detractors. I mean, you do something like this to somebody, you're out of circulation for the rest of your life. You're in prison. You get a little box. You get put in there with another guy named Bubba, and the two of you can have fun and tango. If you like to beat up on women laying unconscious on the ground, if that is who you are as a man, you do not belong in polite society. You belong with Bubba. Don't drop the soap. All right? And I don't really even care what happens to you in there. I really do not. We have gone way too far. And look, some of my Democratic friends who are thoughtful, kind, sentient, good people, and aren't the maybe doing all this bad stuff, right? Defunding the police and helping criminals get out of jail, with the purpose of destroying cities, think that it is a good thing that they're helping, rehabilitation, all this stuff. I'm imploring those of you who think this way to understand that your soft feelings is destroying lives. You are putting the guilty, the ugly, the mean, the nasty, giving that compassion. But where's your compassion for the innocent? The number one reason that we hear the left, we hear the mayor, the in Cincinnati, and that horrible DEI man, woman, police chief, whatever the hell that was, talking about this. Well, you haven't seen the other people instigate. Oh, the other people. And it's, I tell you, the more I learn about this, I understand that one of the guys slapped open hand one of the perpetrators. This woman didn't do anything. Victim shaming absolves them, these liberal politicians, of the guilt that they ought to feel. Again, they prioritize the felons over the innocent. And that's just the thing. When you get into politics, you're going to represent the people. You're going to participate in the great American representative democracy. Your goal is to be a servant to the law-abiding, to those that participate in society, that want to do good. The guy that comes in and out of jail and continues to beat people up and do harm and cause chaos wherever he or she goes, see you later. If you're on that person's side, you're on the wrong side. You see that the perpetrator, the shooter, murderer in D.C. that attacked the two Jewish staffers, killed them there at a function at the Israeli embassy, that the Trump administration is seeking the death penalty. Damn straight. Make the death penalty great again. I mean, here in Nevada, I would be all for, Robbie, start hanging again. That'll be fun. Because it's a deterrent. You go and murder somebody, home invasion robberies, horrible things happen here in Nevada. We don't talk about them enough. You get convicted of that, and just find a spot over at the prison and set up some chairs and let's do it. Okay? We absolutely cannot go soft on crime. And I'm getting ahead of this a little bit because I'm convinced that we're going to see a major pushback on crime, on soft punishment, on these soft DAs. Started with the border. Trump, went after the most important glaring thing first. But watch the pendulum swing back, and perhaps even further than the Democrats ever could imagine. We're going to get really tough on crime here in this country. It'll be a stark difference, of course, to observe the Socialist Republic of New York as Mr. Mamdani establishes his socialist caliphate there. And the difference between that and, let's say, a Trump federalized District of Columbia, D.C. will become a place you can walk any time of day in absolute safety because criminals will once again cower and make way for the law-abiding. That is what's going to happen. Now we come back, I want to tell you that there's also another bit of justice, a very different kind of justice afoot here coming up, and that is these ridiculous, wasteful welfare benefits, EBT SNAP benefits going out to people buying all sorts of yummy treats. You might think this is a simple thing. I'll explain why I feel so passionately about it too when we come back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. This is huge. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. By the way, news that the FBI has fired 3 officials. This includes the former acting director, Brian Driscoll, who served in that role prior to Kash Patel taking over after his confirmation. Also, Special Agent Walter Giardina. He was the one who was involved in the investigation of Peter Navarro, Trump's trade advisor, and Steve Jensen. Also, the acting director in charge of the Washington field office, which I'm sure was a cesspool of political politicization of law enforcement, absolutely. So these 3 agents, FBI officials, are out. Further house cleaning, no doubt, underway. So this is good. Remember, Democrats spent the last 4 years pumping tons of illegal immigrant criminals into the country, simultaneously making it more difficult for law enforcement to do their jobs, defunding the police, reducing cash bail, putting in office woke DAs, and confirming judges who are soft on crime. And what did they use law enforcement for? Their law enforcement was used to go after Trump, to go after Trump supporters, to put grandmothers praying near abortion clinics in prison. That was what the FBI, our nation's preeminent law enforcement agency, was up to in the last 4 years. So yeah, it's part of the conversation on criminality and on crime. It's a big deal, and I'm glad this is happening. Now, here's another thing I'm absolutely delighted about, and that's SNAP reform. 6 more states have announced a ban of junk food from SNAP benefits. Arkansas, Colorado, Florida, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas, Utah, and West Virginia all have a variety of restrictions, ranging from purchases of soft drinks, energy drinks, candy, any sweetened drinks, anything that has less than 50% natural juice, etc. I feel pretty passionately about this because I grew up, my parents, when they came to this country, did not have a lot of money. And when I was quite young, my mom told me a story about how when they were in, we lived for a period of time, several years in Durham, North Carolina. And Durham, is a southern town, and there were quite a few people there that were on welfare. And my parents, being proud, hardworking people, even though money was very tight, never had any such benefits. They would go to the store. My parents would go shopping and buy the essentials. They'd buy potatoes. They'd buy oil and, some butter and milk and, flour and make food. They would cook. They didn't even have money to buy fruit often, right? So I'm not going to get into all of that, but I'm just telling you that was the setup and that was the reality. We didn't have soda growing up. And look, my parents would be at the store and they would see people rolling through there who had shopping carts filled with everything my parents could never afford, and then showing up and using food stamps at the cash register. It's wrong. It's wrong for a number of reasons. Number one, with RFK Jr. Pointing out the important thing that we are eating ourselves, stuffing ourselves to death here in America, that we're eating a bunch of crap food with bad chemical ingredients that is causing us poor health. I think, call me crazy, I think that if you want to ruin your health as an American with crappy food, you're free to do so. But if you're poor, okay, if you're applying for SNAP benefits, it's because you're hungry. Now I'm going to say something here very controversial, Robbie. I'm sorry. You can't be hungry and fat. It just doesn't work. And the thing that galls me the most about it is you can't use taxpayer dollars that you didn't earn on bad food to stuff yourself, make yourself fat and unhealthy, and then take Medicare, Medicaid, whatever it is, public health care to treat the ailments that result from your poor life choices. Put another way, I don't understand why taxpayers should buy you cigarettes and then pay for your cancer treatment. There's just nothing right about that. So this is the issue. Now, well, I'll tell you, there's an announcement from, here's it was. This is from Trump's announcement about this. Where do we have this? Which clip is it? The dietary, right? It's clip 7. Let's play that clip here.
Since my confirmation, our department has encouraged states to think differently and creatively about how to solve the many health issues facing Americans. One way is by not allowing taxpayer-funded benefits to be used to purchase unhealthy items like soda, candy, and other junk food.
Now, this is Brooke Rollins. Set this up properly. Brooke Rollins and RFK Jr. is behind her. He is nodding approvingly to this message, as you might imagine.
For junk food. The number one purchase by SNAP recipients is sugary drinks. SNAP is a supplemental nutrition program meant to provide health food benefits to low-income families to supplement their grocery budget so they can afford the nutritious food essential to health and well-being. That is the stated purpose of the SNAP program. The law states it, and President Trump's USDA plans to deliver on it alongside our partners at HHS. So today, I'm proud to sign 6 more waivers for Florida, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, and Colorado. This is in addition to the waivers we've already signed for Iowa, Indiana, and others across the country. I continue to encourage states to be laboratories of innovation. Think through how you can promote healthy families and healthy communities. These SNAP waivers are just one piece of the MAHA effort. We work so closely together to encourage voluntary commitments to remove artificial food dyes, among other things, from our food supply. And together we are crafting sensical dietary guidelines for Americans that prioritize whole, healthy, and nutritious foods.
I don't understand why this is controversial at all, frankly. It's pretty straightforward. If you want to be healthy, you've got to watch what you put in your body. And if everything if everything that is coming out of these processed food factories is in some way bad for you, let's change it. But I'm also a freedom guy. You know, if you want to have a high fructose corn syrup soda because that's what you enjoy and it tastes good, bless your heart and go drink it. I get it. And by the way, I know people sometimes fight some addictions and whatnot. My wife getting off of Diet Coke was the hardest thing she's ever done. My wife was absolutely addicted to Diet Coke, and she just finally decided, and very right that it's not good for her. So she got off of it. But it's her right. It's your right. It's my right. It's all of our God-given American right to freedom to do whatever we want, eat what we want, and make those decisions for ourselves. I just don't think that we should be paying for it via our tax dollars and welfare. None of that makes sense. So Trump is even rolling this back. He is fixing things that he's fixing everything at once. And here we are, 200th day of Donaldus Maximus here, 2.0, Trump 47. And it just seems that in almost every aspect of our society, of our country, he is cleaning up the mess that Republicans allowed to have happen and the Democrats pushed to make happen over the past 20 to 30 years. It's really incredible. We live in very interesting times, and we're very fortunate, as I've said many times, to have Trump in office. All right, my friends, grab the podcast if you missed it. Please go on there. You also see the Sam Cam, so you see me on video, particularly on Spotify, YouTube, but you can also hear it on Apple Podcasts. So go on there. Twitter, follow me at What's Right Sam, the program at What's Right Show. And I'll be back again tomorrow, Friday. Whoa, end of the week. Almost there, folks.